61% of pastors, according to Barna right now, don't have any close friends. We see fly fishing as very communal. And so that's the point of the retreats, is to kind of beat that number back down. And then also the encouragement aspect of having a space to rest, relax, process.
Welcome to the Eternal Fishing Podcast. This is the podcast where a passion for fishing meets timeless biblical principles. Here we're casting our lines not only into the water, but also into the words of God. In this episode, I speak with Clark Bart, who has started a nonprofit ministry taking pastors and ministry leaders out fly fishing for free. I love this. He takes them out fly fishing in the Appalachian Mountains. They go all over different areas, whether it's Roanoke, Asheville, Charlotte, Greenville, South Carolina, Knoxville, Tennessee. He is taking pastors out as therapy because of the calling that pastors have. Sometimes requires them to get beside calm, quiet, still waters and to restore their souls. Before we jump into that call, let me read a quote for us from Herbert Hoover, which he says this: "Fishing is a relief from the tensions of modern living. It is the one time when we are called upon to be quiet." Also, Psalm 23 is a classic that I think is worthy of us to dive into here. Psalm 23, David wrote this: "The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul." I hope you enjoyed this call with Clark Bart from High Ground Outfitters. Great to have you on the show, Clark. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. Well, I know I'm excited to talk with you for a number of reasons. One is you are a fly fishing guide, which fits the podcast format perfectly, but also because of your association in ministry and also High Ground Outfitters. So I'm excited to learn more about those things and pick your brain on some technical fishing knowledge perhaps as well. So if you don't mind kind of giving an introduction to who you are and what you do, that'd be wonderful.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. So I am 30 years old. To give you the quick rundown, I'm from originally Durham, North Carolina, lived in the central Piedmont region my whole life, ended up going to school at Liberty University. And so I got started fishing, at a young age, like a lot of kids, and, bass fished a lot of ponds near me because I lived out in the country. And so there's just a lot of great guys growing up that would let me fish, the cow pasture ponds for bass, catfish, things like that.
Oh,
so
that's great.
Got me excited about fishing. Went to Liberty University and did my undergrad. And while I was there, I got really into outdoor recreation. So I specifically went to Liberty to serve in ministry. And so that's what I'm doing still. But while I was there, I got really into the outdoors, like I said. So I worked at Christian summer camp for about 5 years and went full-time on staff. But all the time when I was in college, like I worked for the campus outfitter at Liberty, did mountain bike rentals, did a lot of long distance trail running, backpacking. So did the whole outdoor scene and picked up a fly rod like my second year of college. So back in 2014, so over 10 years ago. And I've not looked back since. It's been my favorite, activity. And so fly fishing is primarily what I do. I mean, can I pick up a spinning rod? Yes. It's not one of those purist things per se. Like I just prefer it. And so that's what got me into, so I got in the sport of fly fishing and spent 4 years at Liberty. A lot of times my professors getting upset, genuinely, like I would skip class to go fly fishing. So I'd fish,
Right.
I'd fish 2 to 3, 4 days a week and then work at the outfitter as well. So there's brook trout streams outside of Lynchburg, Virginia, within 25 minutes.
Yeah.
So you could be right into the mix of it. And then also some great fishing up towards the Shenandoah Valley. And so I got into fly fishing. And then really over the last few years, I've worked in different ministry contexts. So in 2018, I moved out to the Bighorn River, which is in Fort Smith, Montana. I served a year with the ministry. And it's an excellent ministry.
What was the name? I think the call may have cut out. What was the name of that?
Yeah. So the ministry is called Refuge Foundation.
Okay.
And so they are on the banks of the Bighorn River and served there for a year and started kind of chit-chatting with a girl back home, moved back and we immediately started dating. And so I've been back on the East Coast. I only did 1 year in Montana, but it taught me how to row a boat, how to guide, how to serve, be hospitable, which fit in line with like the whole camp and retreat conference kind of world I was starting into. And so anyway, to fast forward my story, basically I've served in multiple contexts. So after working in guiding for a nonprofit ministry out west, moved back, went full time at the camp that I kind of grew up going to as a boy and worked there on staff after. And then God just kind of impressed upon my heart. Like I got a degree that had specializations in youth ministry. And I was like, maybe I should go do that. And we started praying. My wife at the time was living in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I was back in the Asheboro, North Carolina area. And so we ended up saying, hey, well, we want to be in the mountains. She knew that I needed to be near trout. And so we moved to Henderson. Yeah. So we moved to Hendersonville, North Carolina I moved there in 2019. We ended up getting married in 2020 during COVID. We can talk about this river specifically. I love it. It's called the Davidson River. I'm in Pisgah National Forest.
Oh yeah.
And then I did some trips for a company called Headwaters Outfitters just down the road. And we focus more on the North Fork of the French Broad, the East and the West. And yes, the Davidson River. But most of the time when I was on the Davidson, it was for fun. But I guided for them. I did, I don't know, anywhere from 5 to 8 trips. And then we ended up moving from Western Carolina. So I can go into other parts of the formation of High Ground Outfitters in just a second, but I'd love to touch on the Davidson for those who've never been into the mountain, region.
Sure.
Okay. So, North Carolina is comprised of a lot of wild trout fishing, a lot of stocked and delayed harvest. And, that's the bread and butter. That's where you learn how to trout fish. But the Davidson's a great river. I always like to pump that one, man. I mean, everyone knows about it. And so I just wanted to say this from the get-go to everyone who's new to fly fishing, getting into it. I was eventually going to guide in that region. And I went 7 times and caught 0 fish. And that's how tricky and technical it was. And that's when I fell in love. Yeah, I went deep into different bug patterns and stealth and learning and growing. And man, I love stealth and very tactical fly fishing situations. And so fast forward, we ended up leaving the church ministry there in Western Carolina. We moved to Northeast Tennessee. And so where we live now is Johnson City, Bristol area called the Tri-Cities. And up here, we have 2 rivers that our ministry guides on, the South Holston and the Watauga River. And they're both tailwaters, which if you've never heard that term in fly fishing or just trout fishing, a tailwater is any river that's kind of dam controlled. And so it's used for hydroelectric purposes and it lets water out for electricity, et cetera. And so all that to say, it gets cold water from the bottom of the lake, and therefore you have cold rivers all year round. So trout are primarily cold water species. So you can have trout in 95-degree heat in the southeast. So very, very, very good place to live for guiding. There's a lot of guides on these rivers. I'm just one of many. And so our ministry, though, we started it last year, but we moved to this region back in 2022. And so we've been settled here. And so, yeah, that's the long of who Clark is, our journey kind of establishing our family. And we're up here in East Tennessee now.
Yeah, absolutely. And so thanks for a great overview there. That's really good. Yeah. So sounds like you love the Davison River. 7 times and 0 fish. I mean, that's tough.
Right.
That's tough. But you said, hey, I'm going to really learn the technical nature of this river.
Yes.
And so I take it now you go 7 times, no longer 0 fish.
Yeah, no, of course not. No. So I didn't take a lot of clients over there. A lot of times we had different waters that we offered, and it was more of a place for fun. But I haven't been back in a couple of years. I haven't been back since Helene. The rivers here keep me busy.
Oh yeah.
But I got a trip over there in the Mills River area, which is the same kind of region, next Friday for a group of guys. So
awesome.
Yeah, I still try to go to Western Carolina. We love the Asheville. We just love everything about Western Carolina.
Yeah.
But I haven't been back, and I have left these rivers and gotten so much better. If anyone who's listening has ever been to East Tennessee and fished our rivers here, they're extremely technical. They're some of the best in the nation.
Yeah.
As far as, I wouldn't say best in the nation as far as technicality, but they're tough. They're like 2 giant spring creeks, and They're a lot of fun though. That's what I find
So,
enjoyable about them.
so maybe not just a place you can easily roll up on and take the rod out, not really knowing much about the river and catch fish. It sounds like you have to have some local knowledge of what the hatch is or what they're doing in that particular season. It sounds like in order to connect with fish.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, call a local fly shop immediately. DM my DM us on Instagram. I mean, there's pretty much easy to find hatch charts all online. Orvis does
Right.
some good stuff, and
Right.
so you can find information online. But as far as spots and stuff, it's worth calling. I mean, and there's a danger too. So if the water levels rise and you're trying to wade fish, it's
Yeah.
super dangerous. So you just have to watch some of those things here. But they're two very wide rivers that you can float with a drift boat,
Okay.
or some will still go on a raft. But yeah, definitely want to
Okay.
know what's going on here.
So when I'm reading about High Ground Outfitters, that what you have listed as offers curated fly fishing trips and retreats for pastors and ministry leaders that helps keep leaders fully alive in their calling. Man, tell me more about that.
Yeah, so that's kind of our one-liner statement that we've thrown out there because it explains everything in one. So for us as a ministry, so we're a 501c3 guiding ministry. And so essentially, are we professional guides? Yes. Guide license, insurance, all that stuff. And we have a background with that and some of the people that I use to help me. But what we want to do is we want to take the just the everyday fly fishing trip, which is so life-giving and so fun if anyone's ever done it, take it, or even just any fishing trip. But if you take a guided fishing trip, man, they're life-giving, they're fun, you learn a lot, they're relaxing. Sometimes they're very intense if you have a very intense guide. But, we take that and we offer some really great food, relaxation. We take some time to ask, really good, hard questions to ask sometimes. And our kind of format though as a ministry is like, you're not coming out here and we're not going to make you do some kind of sit down paperwork thing, this or that. Pastors are content makers all week long. In
Hmm.
addition to counseling people all week long, you're writing sermons, you're thinking about the next Bible or equipping thing you do, so you're always thinking about the other person. And so a big part of our ministry is serving leaders and offering them kind of a space to just settle down and be quiet and just
Yeah.
rest. So that's the kind of more thoughtful approach where we pair it with fly fishing. And fly fishing is a very relaxing sport years ago. And I can find it, the reference, but Harvard actually did a study. Their school of medicine did a study on fly fishing and the therapeutic nature of it. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah. So the repetitive casting nature, there's even some clinical therapists using EMDR. I'm friends with one who does it here, EMDR therapy using fly fishing. And so
Wow.
there's just the repetitive casts, you hear rushing water. It's not like fishing on a lake, which
Hmm.
is still enjoyable, but you hear the rushing water. It's just a
Yeah.
very relaxing environment. And you're on a boat all day. So if you're not catching fish, you're still going to have a great time.
Right. What?
Um,
There's a lot of worse ways to spend the day. Man.
Exactly. And then, so we offer our day trips. So if you're a pastor ministry leader, we do offer our day trips for free. And so if you came up here, you get a whole day for free. Normally an 8-hour fly fishing trip's $500,
Yeah.
$600 plus tip. So we offer it for free. God's told us from the get go that, hey, you're going to offer these day trips for free. And so until he says otherwise, we're going to do that. And then we are offering retreats. So we kind of really started the ministry over a year ago. This year was our first kind of real push. And we felt God say, go pedal to the metal. And so we
Mm.
did not do any overnight retreats this year. We did 2 one-day events for a larger organization, and we're doing one next week. And so basically, yeah, we're going to be we have our first retreat scheduled for next May at Watauga River Lodge here in Tennessee for a 2-night, 3-day fishing trip. Next year, we're going to have that retreat plus more coming. We're going to try and do it. And right now, so the way we've structured our ministry is I'm doing it more or less part-time and working part-time at a church. So I'm a student director at Redstone Church in Johnson City. So I'm doing that right now, serving the church that way. And I love students. And so we're
Awesome.
still doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to be really pushing our ministry. We're looking to go full time whenever God kind of gives that green light also.
Sure. Awesome. Awesome. Very good. So, just the idea of taking pastors and ministry leaders out, I've heard it said that pastors have as much, if not more, PTSD from being in ministry as soldiers returning from the Middle East in the war.
Mm,
And, you know, having served in ministry now for some years, I can understand that because,
yeah,
the job of a pastor is to serve and love and give. And that's an ongoing thing, right? It's
yeah.
always going. And so I think it's just wonderful that you have a place or a service here for pastors to go get some therapy. If you don't, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it, it's you're finding peace, right? In the streams
Mhm.
and in the wilderness and just being out there with the fly rod, maybe the motion, maybe the sound, whatever it is, it's a great thing for pastors to get away and to have that time, man. I'm just grateful for you. Thank you for being faithful to that call. So maybe at the end of the call we can m- maybe give a plug for if people want to support your ministry. Maybe there's a way they can do that. But
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, thank you for doing that. So what have you found unique about pastors on the water that might be different than other clients that you've taken as a guide service?
We do those trips for free per pastors, and then I'll get back to answering your question. I'll just
Yeah.
side note here.
Yeah, sure.
We do take pastors and ministry leaders for free for like a 1-day trip, but we also do offer our trips for Christian business and marketplace leaders.
Okay.
So we partner up a decent bit with local C12, if
Oh,
you've heard of
yeah.
them.
Oh,
Yeah, so
I
we've
used to be part of it. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. So you're aware. So I actually have a really big heart for serving Christian business marketplace leaders. I've done a few years of corporate sales and things, and regardless of that, I know that businesses run communities, and more than people think, there's so much disciple making opportunity
Oh,
in
no doubt.
business, and so I just love what they do, and they love what I do, and so a lot of times they're able to write off their tax donation,
Yeah.
so they get a great day of rest with us and they're able to pay it forward also to help pay for those trips to go
How
for free.
cool.
So we partnered up with we have no official partnership. A lot of the C12, we've taken a group from Virginia, we're doing one in Western Carolina, and we've done one here in Tennessee. And so we have just a plug for anyone listening, if you're part of C12, like come book a trip, know that your money is going to
Yeah.
serving the church. But back to your question about who and how we serve, I've served and I see guiding as a service, right? So I've served in paying clientele and it's great. You do feel, I don't care who you are as a fishing guide. If you're not putting fish in the boat,
Uh-huh.
yeah, you got to get fish in the boat. I mean, that's what a
Yeah.
fishing guide does. That statement gets thrown out around a lot, like, oh, well, it's not about the fishing. And it's like, to be fair, that's true. But if you're a fishing guide, you've got to put the numbers in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a high stakes thing. A lot of guides don't talk about, but they feel it.
Sure.
And
Of
and
course.
so I have felt that pressure, and I've maybe had, and like I'll be honest, I've had 1 day complete skunk,
Mm.
and that is very seldom. So anyway, that was a day where it was a multi-guide trip, and like two of the other guides didn't catch anything, but one did, right? So it wasn't just me, but man, those days are rough. So I'll say this: when it comes to taking, I like taking people who kind of deserve that day and time. Other
Mm.
people, they deserve it. They've earned their money. They want to enjoy their day. That's incredible. I have no problem with taking somebody who wants to pay. But man, when it comes to what we do, I see there's a greater purpose.
Yeah.
And what the way that we've structured it. So I love doing both. I'll do it all day for anyone. But I love getting to serve the most. That's why we set it up as a 501c3. And
Right.
that's why we're catering to a specific audience of people who, like you said, the PTSD. I mean, you've heard of, I don't know if you have or not, but Project Healing Waters fly fishing that uses fly fishing for veterans who,
Oh, cool.
yeah. So they're not a Christian organization, but they're a great organization. And just fly fishing is so relaxing. So
Yeah.
that's the point, kind of like you mentioned, man. Pastors, 40% is kind of the up and down number that Barna comes out with every couple of years, is around the 30 to 40 range. It's dropped a little bit. Our pastors who are saying they're wanting to leave the ministry, 61% of pastors, according to Barna right now, don't have any close friends. And
Mm.
we see fly fishing as very communal. And so that's the point of the retreats, is to kind of beat that number back down. And then also the encouragement aspect of having a space to rest, relax, process. And then, it's probably going into another question, but I would say the thing that makes me passionate, is just we want to change those statistics. We want to solve a problem with it.
Yeah,
And we're seeing that. And so that's what's really encouraging to me.
that's awesome. That's great. So I'm wondering, how many pastors come and fish with you guys that, or ministry leaders that maybe it's their first time, or if
Oh yeah.
or some of them might have some experience. So how do you navigate that, right? I mean, it's probably just like any other client, right, that doesn't know. But do you have different techniques that you use to help teach someone and get them on fish when it's maybe their first time?
Yeah. Great question. We serve, man, I would say like over 75% of the people I take are brand new. Never
Wow.
done it before.
Wow.
So it's
Okay.
very intimidating on the front end. And so a lot of times what I like to do is actually do like a little casting lesson before we actually hit the
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
It makes the day a lot more successful when you do that. And so casting on a lawn versus we take 15, 20 minutes. It's not a long session. You're going to learn by doing out there with me. But I would say that the only thing that helps make us even more successful is just patience with yourself. We also have an abundance of trout. Some days is really
Mm.
hard. Some days there's trout of persnickety. I mean, we have these fish see like a lot of boats. I mean, in the peak seasons up here, I mean, yeah, it's not uncommon for 20 some boats to be on the way. I mean, busy. And that's a busy day in different sections. But man, these fish are smart as crap up here, man. Sorry to get redneck on you, but dude, they are smart, dude. And so we do really light tippet, really small flies. And so for the beginner, that's really tough to start with. But the good thing is we do have an abundance. I mean, I would say even both rivers, I mean, years change, different spawning years are better than others, but when you're anywhere from 2,000 in some section, 3,000, some estimate in the past up to 9,000 trout per mile on the South Holston. So we have a lot of fish, and we have smallmouth bass, we have carp, we have hybrid stripers who come up from the lakes.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of different fish that you can take up here.
Wonderful.
Yeah, man.
Do you have a particular fish that you tend to target more?
Trout. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I target trout like
like
all the
brown
time.
trout or rainbows,
Um,
brook trout.
So in our river systems, we have funny, they at one point stocked a strain of cutthroat at one of the
Oh,
dams, but
really?
I've not seen or heard a lot, yeah, from anyone about those. No, so we primarily target in our rivers here, the South Holston Watauga are brown and rainbow trout. The browns are wild; they're not native. The only native trout to the southeast or east coast it would be the brook trout,
Right.
and then. But they're wild. The browns are wild. We have wild rainbows, and then we have stocked rainbows in a couple sections of each river, but primarily stocking is on the Watauga. But we will do trips like in Virginia. We did a trip outside of Lynchburg earlier this year, and we were able to target some wild native Blue Ridge, brook trout, and we were able to
Mm,
also do some rainbow trout. So we will go places as well. We'll set up shop, do a trip out there. Like next week, I'm going to Western Carolina to do a trip also, but for like wade fishing. But
yeah.
our float trips on the drift boat are here in East Tennessee.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Awesome. So I tend to ask this question of guides with whatever their style of fishing is. What are your go-to flies? Like what are you pulling out of the box to throw?
Oh yeah. So we do a lot of nymphing, and we do have
Okay.
great dry fly hatches, and so you do it based on the hatch. I would say for me, like year round, these are my two bugs that I'm going to have on a rig if we're talking the tailwater rivers here because they're so specific and unique. So I always have a it's called a stripper midge, okay? And a stripper midge is basically stripped peacock quill that you
Okay.
wrap around the hook. You throw
Yep.
some resin on it for durability. But I fish those. I always have one on one of my rigs in a size 20 to 24. So really small. We have a lot of really small bugs, and not a ton. We do have bait fish and we do have some like sculpin and different shad and things like that. But a lot of our fish are taken by midges. And then the other one, I would say a really easy attractor pattern that's an easy guide fly is just the Frenchie, if you've ever seen those. So it's a pheasant tail variant with a little bit of flash.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So those would be some of my go-to. And then, mountain streams, you can get away with a lot with like Chubby Chernobyl. dry fly down to like another, again, any other type of nymph. You can get away with a lot more in a stream than you can these rivers. So
Okay.
that's basically it.
So a lot of nymphs, subsurface type
Yes.
fishing. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, gotcha. Do you do like a dropper rig, or do you just go straight down and let it sink in the and I'm forgetting my technical terms here, but do you drop it underneath the fly or one of those little bobbers, you know what I'm talking about?
Uh-huh.
Or do you just go straight down with it?
Yeah, no. So we there's a couple different rigs. Like for my low water game, we do a rig that's pretty shallow, shallower than more people think, but it's a long leader. So, a lot of times we're fishing at least 10-foot leaders. So it's a longer line from the fly line. And I use yarn indicators quite a bit. Yarn
Okay.
is very sensitive and it doesn't plop on the water. And that's at low water. And so we'll have two bugs under that, varying weights if the and then not to get too technical, but then we have another rig called the bounce rig, which is really effective. And we use a larger bobber, like an Oros or a thingamabobber on top,
Uh-huh. Yep.
down, and actually we do two tags. So I tie two flies on tags, and then down at the bottom, I actually stack weight. And this is a very common rig, especially out west too. But it works when the water is high. So we have, when the water's high and generating, we do this rig quite a bit, and it's super effective. You're just kind of dragging it along, and it looks crazy and doesn't look like it's not a great looking cast either. It's like a water load cast, but
Right.
so we work we have multiple rigs that we work, but yeah, it's technical in that way. And then we do dry dropper. We'll throw a chubby or a grasshopper, some kind of
Yeah.
terrestrial down to a nymph. And
Right.
we'll
Right.
work on different weights. But yeah, that's essentially it.
Okay. Okay. Super cool. Yeah, that's great. I've heard a lot about nymphing, and I've tied a lot of nymphs and midges and things like that, but I just never really got into it. For some reason, I always just did the dry flies, And
Oh
so,
yeah,
I mean, I'm sure I probably missed out on a lot of great fishing by not
yeah,
going with the nymphs, but I guess I just never broke through the barrier. I mean, I got a box full of them that I've tied, but just never fished them a whole lot. Never really knew how to do it, I think, the right way.
sure.
But yeah, man, that's great that you guys get into that side. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
yeah.
we will, if there's a hatch happening of insects, we'll throw a dry fly on, just a single dry fly or a double dry
Yeah.
rig. But I mean, yeah, the most effective is going to be nymphing.
Oh, good. And they're pretty small too, 20 to 24. Those are pretty small.
Yeah, the biggest fly that I'll fish on the tailwaters is probably 16.
Okay.
I just don't. I've learned over the few years that I've been here fishing and learning the waters, it's like I'm not getting away with nothing with these
Yeah.
fish. So in a mountain stream, you can fish. Well, I take that back. The only other large fly, if I do feel like it, and which I don't often, would be like a size, 14 egg or something, or a size 12 Pat's rubber leg. That'd be the only like large
Yeah.
nymph that I use for stoneflies,
Yeah.
but that's not often. But anyway, I
Are
can nerd out and talk all the technical part.
Are you guys throwing like 4 weights, 5 weights?
Yeah.
What weight are you? Yeah.
Yeah, 9-foot 5 weight's kind of our program rod that
Right.
we've
Right.
like invested in just because it's such a durable all around. We do have a couple 10-foot 4 weights that the extra foot there adds a little bit of tippet protection because it's such a light rig and we fish such light tippet here, like 6X. I don't really go to 7X often, but we can. Just beginners, when you set that hook, it's easy to just like rip into that fish and break off. So we do 6X. And with that being said, 6X is the size of the tippet diameter. It's very light line that we're
Yeah.
using. So when you have that extra foot, it adds a little bit of shock absorption. And so
Oh,
we use
okay.
10-foot fours and they cast really well. It's probably I think 10-foot four is probably one of my new favorite for everything. Dry fly fishing, nymphing, some light streamer fishing. Like I can do everything with that rod.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. The extra foot there
Yeah.
giving you a little bit more play, because that
Uh-huh.
6X, 7X, that's probably what, like 1, 2 pound test. I mean, it's
Oh
really
yeah, it's
light.
light. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like 6X is like right at 3, but it's super. Yeah, it's very light. And we will have like some 8 weights for like streamer fishing, but to be fair, like it can be just as technical as it doesn't sound
Yeah.
like it, but streamer fishing can be very technical. So we don't do that often
Right.
with people.
Right.
Just like I said,
Okay.
mostly newbies.
Yep. 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 Gotcha. Awesome. Well, I'm curious to maybe hear a story, maybe something that stands out from your time on the water. Maybe it was a particular trip, maybe it was one of your own experiences or guiding or anything that stands out. It could be a funny story, it could be a serious story, it could be anything, but just something that stands out in your mind from a time on the water.
Yeah. I have a second story. I want to tell you and your listeners about our drift boat and kind of the origin of the ministry in a minute. But as far as on the water, this was years ago. I had a guy get in my boat who was not a believer. He used to be a worship leader, and we went to a lower stretch of river, so not, there's some nuances in fishing, and there's not no set in stone, rules, but typically, a lot of times on rivers, your bigger fish are going to sit lower, but you may not catch as much. And again, that's not always the rules everywhere, but this particular section of this river was. And so I was with this guy who had left ministry. He was kind of burnt, done,
Mm,
out, gone, pretty much left the ministry and the faith. And I was like, okay, whatever. We're going to go. We're going to hang out, have a great time. And during that day, I just started praying for him constantly. And I don't know where he is with the Lord, or even now we didn't stay connected, but I started praying for this guy, and I was like, Lord, like, you see him. He's your son, and you see him today. Lord, would you help provide a fish? It'd been an all day thing, man. We didn't catch anything. And we were coming up to the last like 300 feet to the boat ramp, and yeah, like I said, we were coming up the last 300 feet to the boat ramp, and he ends up pulling in, 17-inch brown.
yeah.
And so it's like, those kind of moments live in my mind,
Yeah.
where the Lord just moves, and it just meant a lot to that guy. And I was able to share with him over dinner later. I was like, hey, look, like, I know where you're at with your faith, but if anything, just let you know, like, I prayed all day for you and that fish. And for what it's worth, I just want to let you know that God sees you and loves you. And I don't, he was like thankful, but he wasn't
Sure.
aggravated by hearing that. But man, it was just to be able to share like a testimony, like God does do things like that.
I
So that
love
was
that.
fun.
Wow. That's a powerful story there, Clark. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Awesome. Well, you mentioned you wanted to share more about your float trips and your ministry
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So really the biggest thing too is just the origin, so we, as a ministry, I do want to share about our drift boat. Like, it's a really cool story and the origin of our ministry. And so I won't take too long, but we moved to East Tennessee to establish this ministry after being in unhealthy church context. The first churches I worked in that ended up splitting eventually. And so I was in, I was at a place where I was like, maybe God does want us to start this. And actually things worked out. There's a group of people that started a similar ministry up here that doesn't really operate, but they were like, we thought that Lord was opening this door immediately. And so we moved up here to get started with this couple. And after a month, my wife was like, hey, I don't really feel the Holy Spirit on this property. I'm like, what do you mean? This is a dream. This is exactly what we've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
In the same day, we ended up in the same like next 24 hours, like asking too many questions and this, that, and the other, and just like not seeing the same vision combined. We ended up separating and stepping, apart from the couple. We ended up being asked to leave, and we were like, whoa, what in the world? We moved here for you, God. We thought this was a door you opened.
Yeah.
A week later, man, we ended up having a pregnancy test say, hey, you're going to be a dad. And I'm like, oh,
Woo.
cool. So we moved here as missionaries to East Tennessee to do this thing, man, and it didn't work out. And we were like, okay, we're done. I actually ended up selling all of our fishing gear just because this was about 3.5 years ago. Sold all of our fishing gear. I was like, I'm going to become a dad. I got to pay bills. I got to figure
Yeah.
this out. And so we did a couple odd jobs here and there, and we thought this dream was dead. And I allowed the Lord to just kind of like hold me in this place of like being okay with not doing ministry.
Mm,
And that's okay to be in. That's a good place to be in, to let the Lord father you and take care of you. And
yeah.
so we were in this place for the last few years, and then slowly the dream started to creep back in. And it wasn't a discontentment where it was like oh, I just want to do what I want to do, man. I feel like it was a holy moment where the Lord just start like putting these thoughts, and the Holy Spirit just keep moving these ideas back in. I was like, okay, well, Lord, if you want us to do this ministry, we'll establish a 501c3, but you've got to provide the boat. All right. And so it'd been about a year or two, and like we grieved some of that. And man, within 3 weeks, I got connected with a guy. He's like, "Hey," I called him. I was like, "Hey, I heard you had a boat. This is really random, but we're starting this ministry, and we're looking for a drift boat. Could we rent yours?" And yeah, I have guides all around me, but they use theirs. This is a random guy who that we had heard about, and he was like, "Yeah, I have a drift boat." In fact, once he heard our story, he donated us the drift boat. Well, come to
Awesome.
find out, he was very generous, and I got to know him a little bit, but he was just kind enough to give it to us. So he was just sitting there in his pasture. And so this old RO DeVille, it's like the first model they made. And I actually met one of the guys down here. I think it was his originally. We have this boat, and man, for the first year of the ministry in 2024, I took only 5 trips. I ended up working in corporate sales for a couple years, and I just never got it off the ground. I just was like kind of playing it safe, man, and
Yeah.
white picket fencing my way through
Yeah.
ministry. And I was just like, "Oh, I'm going to do this." And I
Uh,
wasn't doing anything a year ago. And the boat had about 5 holes in it. Come to find out, his great guy, but they used it for like duck hunting. And so it just hit every rock in the river, never got resurfaced. So
right. Right.
I was like, "Okay, we can't leave this boat not safe. Lord, if you want me to do this ministry, man, you've really got to provide a way." And it's almost like God backing you in a corner, but it's not into a corner, it's right into his will. And so God has this boat, and I start praying, and I figure out, okay, I asked the guy, "How much is this going to cost us?" This was March of this year. So fast backtrack with me a little bit. I'm working in sales last year. I've not done anything for the ministry other than about 5 trips, and it's just kind of going slow. I'm just like playing it safe. And then I end up my division in the company got loose, and about 1,100 people got fired that day.
Oof.
And so again, second job loss, and the Lord like, "Where are you at?" And the whole time I was right where he wanted me to be, in
Yeah.
dependency with him. So we were walking this journey out, and at the time you don't see him anywhere. And that's a crumbling, crushing, shameful thing for a man to lose his job. So we did that and did some things to support the family. And then March of this last year, I was like, "Lord, this is what you called us here for. What do you want us to do with this daggum boat?" And I started praying, and I was like, I found out the cost is going to be $2,000 to fix it. Lord, I don't have $2,000. I got to make rent next month. And I was like, "Lord, if you want us to do this ministry, I'm putting it back on
Mm.
you." And so I started praying, and I was like, "Lord, give me the name of who I have to call for this donation." And the Lord gave me the name of a guy named Will that I knew. And I was like, "Okay, I'm going to call Will on Tuesday." And the Sunday before that Tuesday, I was going to call the guy. The exact guy texts me during church and says, "Hey, I felt like the Lord wants me to give you $2,000 to your ministry." Has no idea.
Oh
And
man.
so, man, we've just seen like provisional
Oh.
moments and the Lord establishing our ministry. And so all that to say, every person who comes in the boat, I don't share every single time that story, but man, that's foundational. That keeps us
Oh.
grounded to, this is why we're doing this. He's establishing us here. And so, yeah, man, it's one of my favorite things about this is that he had to take me to a place to make ministry not about me. It's all about him and being dependent upon him. And,
Oh.
sometimes if we start out doing the exact thing that we think we're supposed to do, I think there's almost like a step further you got to take and really letting him lead the way. And so our ministry, I'm very dedicated to this region and trying to serve the Southeast. I mean, we're in the Bible Belt. And so for me, it's extremely important that when I started into this, like, you're not coming on a trip with me to hear the 10 ways to grow your church. You're not going to get a list of 6 ways to be the best leader you can be. There's books about that.
right.
Man, I'm here to metaphorically wash your feet. I'm here to, pr- you know,
Yeah.
you know, prepare a table before you and the Lord and let you have rest and time with him,
Mm.
place to have someone to connect with. But we're here for every leader, every season. So if you're like burnt out, you're tired, exhausted, and you want to come hang out and fish, cool. If you're a guy who's like, "Man, ministry is going great, life couldn't be better, I just want to come fish." Like, we're not here for any one or the other. Like, the Lord has a reason for why you get connected to us. So
Yeah.
I know that was a lot there for everyone and you, but man, it's one of my favorite things is that God will do incredible things, and we can't forget that, you know?
What an incredible. I'm so glad you told that story about the drift boat. And
Yeah, dude.
one, that he provided it for you initially, and then second, what a specific prayer and request to say, "Lord, I gotta have $2,000." He brings the guy to your mind, and then before you
Mhm.
reach out to him, he reaches out to you and says, "I think the Lord is wanting me to give you $2,000." And it's like the Lord's saying, I'm here and I've been a part of your story, and I'm right
Hmm.
here, and you're right where you need to be. Keep on
That's right.
moving. And man, what a powerful motivator is that. That's awesome.
Hmm.
Great story. Thank you for sharing that. So
Yeah, man.
High Ground Outfitters. And so, how can people get in touch with you? One, if they are a pastor or a ministry leader and they want to plug in with you guys, how do they do that?
Yeah. So the easiest way you can watch about we do have a Facebook page, I think. We don't get on often on Facebook. We will occasionally, but the best way to message us is by really connecting by text. Like I'll make sure
Yeah.
you can use my cell phone for those who are interested who connect with you from the show. We also on our website, so it's www.highgroundoutfitters.org,
Okay.
not .com. That'll take you to a truck website. So www.highgroundoutfitters.org. And on the website, you can learn a little bit about us. There's a place on there for booking a trip. And so
Okay.
it's a link that you can take to book a trip with us if you're a pastor ministry leader. It's also, we're on Instagram, so highground_outfitters. And so you can connect with us on Instagram as well. You can kind of stay up to date with photos, videos, all those postings as well. So those are the easiest ways to get a hold of us and book a trip also.
Awesome. And if for some chance there's someone out there that loves your story, wants to contribute, wants to be a part of what God's doing through you guys by giving financially, how can they do that? Is there a place on the website for that?
Yeah, there's a donations page up there right now. So you can go online, give whatever you want. Obviously, we're 100% tax deductible. So yeah, any amount that the Lord puts on your heart to donate, you can do it right there.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Now, how did you come up with the name High Ground Outfitters?
Yeah. I'm actually glad you asked. Not many people do. They just think, oh, you're in the mountains. Cool. I actually love this vision, this idea of that Christ gives us, that we can be seated with him in heavenly places. That
Mm-hmm.
he is seated at the right hand of the Father. And so I think the thing that brought that to mind is, yes, we're in the mountains, so we're at the high ground.
Right.
But this idea of peering above, and leaders sometimes being so bogged down in the forest and the hardships of ministry, but we want to help
Ah,
bring you up to where the Lord is. And so that's essentially the name in and of itself. And even when you look back at the Old Testament, it's like, where'd you go meet with Yahweh? It's always up in the
mm-hmm.
mountains.
That's right.
So that's where the name comes from.
Fantastic. Well, Clark, it's been a joy talking to you. I appreciate your time, appreciate your passion, and I love to hear how God is blessing your ministry and using you guys. I know you guys are still fairly early into the life of your ministry, but sounds like you're off to a great start, a very blessed start. And I'm just grateful for you, sir. Keep on going, keep on sharing the love of the Lord and ministering to these pastors and ministry leaders, because it's, as you know, being one, it's a needed ministry. So thank you, sir.
Absolutely, Kyle. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye. If you are a ministry leader, a pastor, or even in a company as a leader, but you are a believer and you would like to get away and just focus on your faith for a while by some calm streams, doing some fly fishing, or maybe you're not even a believer, but you like the idea of finding peace on the water, I would love for you to connect with Clark at High Ground Outfitters. Give him a call, connect with him, and see what you can work out. If you run a business or you're a business owner and you want to offer that as a benefit to some key leaders, I think that'd be awesome to send them up and connect with Clark as well for some time on the water. I wanted to focus on Psalm 23. Man, is that such a great psalm. David has faced a lot of trials in his life when he wrote that, and he has found peace in the Lord. And he says that the Lord is his shepherd. As a pastor, that word applies to my role. I'm supposed to shepherd the flock, to look after the flock, to know the status of the flock, and to comfort the flock as I can by pointing them to the great comforter, our Lord Jesus Christ. And David says, as a shepherd himself, as a boy, he was a shepherd. He says, the Lord is my shepherd. And because of that, he lacks nothing. And I love this picture of making him lie down in green pastures. Sometimes we need to like force ourselves to take a break, to calm down, to just take a load off and to allow ourselves to heal and to recover from the busyness of life. David says he leads me beside quiet waters. That is what I understand to be from this call. The point, the purpose of High Ground Outfitters is to allow pastors to take a break, to take a load off, to get out into nature and to be beside waters, quiet waters with a fly rod in hand. Clark said that there's this therapy that actually has been studied and I guess certified to be therapeutic with the idea of casting a fly rod, just the motion of that, or the waters, turning by and moving by. There's peace there. And I think that maybe from a physical standpoint or a mental standpoint, there's a lot of therapy to be gained there. As a pastor, I don't want to miss this very important point that Psalm 23 says that the Lord is our shepherd. The Lord is our place of calm waters. The Lord is the place that brings peace in turmoil. So if you are not in a position where you can get out in nature and get beside a stream and get a fly rod in hand or to connect with Clark, I want to encourage you, find a place of calm and peace in your life, of time with the Lord. Let him be your calm stream, your quiet waters, and to restore your soul. You do this by quiet times or reading his word or through prayer. I want to encourage you to do that, to find the comfort and the peace that you need in your life. One of the other things I wanted to focus on was Clark gave a great definition of tailwaters. When you have a lake that is dammed up, you got all of this huge body of water, and then just part of that water is being released through the dam, and that water creates a river. The water that's released creates a river, and it's like a tail, like a dog, a big body, and you got a little tail coming out at the end. That's like the tailwaters. That's the river. And it was really fascinating that they're catching trout in 95-degree weather because the water is so cool. Now, tailwaters fluctuate based on how much water is being released from the dam, how much water is being held back, how much is being released. There's a lot of life that happens, whether you're a pastor, a ministry leader, a leader in a company, wherever you might find yourself, there's a lot of life that can happen. And I think a lot of times we can find ourselves having a whole lot that we're holding back, that we're not allowing to be released. And I want to encourage you to find ways to get beside the quiet waters with the Lord so you can release the things that are dammed up, that are being held back in your heart, in your soul, that needs to be released, and so that you can find peace in your life. I want to encourage you to go to the Lord, to do that, to find your peace in your walk with Him. If you're not a believer, if you haven't placed your hope in Jesus Christ for your eternal salvation and your daily energy and confidence and peace, I want to encourage you to do that today. Just pray the prayer, Lord, be Lord of my life. I surrender all to you. I understand I'm a sinner, and to you I owe everything, and it's a joy and privilege to serve you. Thank you for listening to this show of the Eternal Fishing Podcast. It's a joy to do this and to be a resource for you guys out there, whether it's fishing knowledge, technical tips, or your faith. It would be a huge help for the show if you would follow the show, like it on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you are consuming the show. If you would like it, follow it, and share it, it would be a huge help for helping us get this show out to as many people as possible. Thank you so much, and tight lines until next time.